Hello and thanks for joining us on the news on NTA International. My name is Frama Panyi and Franklin Efe is the sign language interpreter. We begin with the headlines. President Tinubu departs Abuja for France on a private visit. 1 month to the Edo governorship election, INEC declares preparedness for exercise, warns troublemakers to off radar. China and Vietnam sign 14 deals to boost economic ties. And now the news in full. President Bola Tinubu has departed Abuja for France on a private trip. An earlier statement by the Presidential Advisor on Media and Publicity, Ajuri Ngelale, indicates that the president will return to the country after his brief work stay in France. Committed to end corruption in the ECOWAS region, President Bola Tinubu has called on member countries to ratify and fully implement the ECOWAS protocol against corruption. The Nigerian leader, represented by Vice President Kashim Shettima, made the call at the opening of the 6th Annual General Assembly of the Network of National Anti-Corruption Institutions in West Africa, NACIWA, held at the ECOWAS Secretariat in Abuja. Also announced Nigeria's donation of an office building for the permanent headquarters in the country. State House correspondent Abdulrahman Jibrila reports.
The future of our region depends on our ability to create transparent, accountable and efficient governance structures that serve the interests of our people.
Implementing the ECOWAS protocol on the fight against corruption towards strengthening institutions for regional integration is the reason that brought stakeholders together in the ECOWAS sub-region.
The theme of our assembly also highlights the importance of regional unity, and that is why I would want to join my colleague, the chair of the EFCC, in regretting the absence of our brothers and sisters from Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. And we want to assure them that ECOWAS will always have seats at the table for them, because together we are stronger.
The implementation of the ECOWAS protocol against corruption is not a mere technical exercise. It is a moral imperative that demands utmost dedication and innovative thinking. Our presence here today underscores the importance of collaborative and coordinated efforts in fostering transparency, accountability, and good governance across West Africa sub-region.
Use of technology and digital tools will assist anti-corruption operatives in the onerous task of taming this monster and dismantling the corruption networks. For Senator
Nigeria, chairing the ECOWAS seat, has restated commitment towards ensuring the fight against corruption through various initiatives, especially the African Continental Free Trade Area Framework.
ECOWAS establishment of NACIWA in 2010 was a visionary step towards creating a united front against the scourge of corruption in our region. It provides a platform for law enforcement collaboration in tackling the common challenge of corruption, which poses serious economic, security, and developmental challenges to the entire West African sub-region.
Let me affirm the commitment of the 10th Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to this cause. We remain resolute in our determination to support all efforts aimed at eliminating corruption and financial crimes, thereby paving a way for a brighter and more prosperous future for our people.
15 member countries of the Network of National Anti-Corruption Institutions also here to promote interagency cooperation, develop and harmonize the legal, regulatory and administrative provisions, as well improve on standards governing professional practice within the network. In Abuja, Abdulrahman Jibrila, NTA News.
Minister of Foreign Affairs Yusuf Tugar says Africa loses $88.6 billion annually to illicit financial flows, equivalent to around 3% of Africa's GDP. The minister was speaking at the 6th Annual General Assembly of the Network of Anti-Corruption Agencies in Africa, where the minister stressed the need for regional and global cooperation in combating corruption. The minister cited initiatives such as the African Union's Agenda 2063 and the African Continental Free Trade Area in addressing these challenges. He said to address corruption, there is need to close loopholes, enforce regulations, and repatriate stolen assets. Similarly, the Foreign Affairs Minister noted that adopting the United Nations Resolution on Tax Cooperation and the Sustainable Development Goals (SDGs), it will support Africa's effort in ensuring robust global financial system and promote good governance, transparency to eliminate safe havens for all ill-gotten funds. And Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa has officially assumed the chairmanship of the Southern African Development Community, SADC. The election took place during the 44th Ordinary SADC Summit of Heads of State and Government held in Harare. Comfort Fashion reports.
The 44th Ordinary SADC Summit of Heads of State and Government was convened in the new Parliament building in the Mount Hamdan area, focused on regional integration, industrialization, and fostering political and economic stability. President Mnangagwa expressed Zimbabwe's honor in hosting the summit and emphasized the importance of dialogue and diplomacy in resolving conflicts within the region.
Condemned the use of sanctions and other coercive measures as a foreign political tool against developing countries. By the same token, allow me to call for the end of the conflict in Palestine and appeal for the respect of United Nations resolutions on the two-state solution. Similarly, the independence of the peoples of the Western Sahrawi is long overdue. Zimbabwe.
He said he firmly believes in dialogue and diplomacy as a sustainable route for the resolution of any conflicts or disputes.
The Republic of Angola is handing over the gavel, which is one of the instruments of power which we use to make decisions.
The handover ceremony saw outgoing SADC chairperson, Angolan President João Manuel Gonçalves Lourenço transferred the mantle to Mnangagwa, with regional leaders expressing confidence in Zimbabwe's leadership to continue the progress and unity within the SADC. The summit took place amid ongoing challenges in the region, including a severe drought, the outbreak of Mpox virus, and human rights concerns in Zimbabwe, where recent arrests of opposition members and activists have been reported. Despite these challenges, the summit underscored the collective efforts towards peace, stability, and development in Southern Africa. Comfort, Fashion, NTA News.
8 workers and other people have fled Sudan to neighboring Chad, have sounded the alarm over a worsening humanitarian situation in Darfur. Kolo Mohammed tells us more.
Living conditions approaching famine has been created by the war in Sudan. Starvation crisis is affecting regions. There are children in the therapeutic feeding center with kids above a year old looking like 4 to 5 months old due to malnutrition. A worker said there is severe malnutrition that is unmanageable, and to put it in the context of reality, once malnourished, eating becomes impossible even when food is available.
And the stories, once again, I heard from them, were dismal. Fighting in their villages, people killed, women threatened and abused, and endless stories of displacement, people fleeing to the mountains, then to another village to escape the fighting or different type of militias, and then trying to seek refuge in relatively safer areas of the country. This is a state in the southern part of Sudan, bordering actually the state of South Sudan, and the estimate is that there's anywhere between 1 and 2 million people here displaced from other parts of the country.
Doctors that border say they hope this week's announcement by the authorities of the reopening of the Adre border crossing will mean more UN aid can reach hard-hit areas, even though obstacles still remain. Recent rains led to the collapse of important bridges and tents used as shelters by displaced Sudanese people. Kolom Muhammad, NTA News.
National governments of China and Vietnam have signed 14 documents spanning cross-border railways to crocodile exports. Again, Kolom Muhammad tells us more.
Vietnam's president's first overseas visit since his appointment as party chief early this month signals a desire to strengthen ties as trade and investment grow despite occasional clashes over boundaries in South China Sea. President Xi Jinping said China has always regarded Vietnam as a priority in its neighborhood diplomacy and supports Vietnam in adhering to party leadership, taking the socialist path suited to its national conditions and deepening the cause of reforms and socialist modernization. He further said he remains open to establishing good working relations and personal friendship with President Lam. Vietnamese president described the bilateral ties as a top priority in Vietnam's external policy and called his trip to China the affirmation of the party and the Vietnamese government to value the relations with China. The two countries signed documents on planning and feasibility studies for standardized railway routes in what appears as a new step towards the upgrade of cross-border rail links after preliminary deals in the matter were signed in December during Xi's visit to Hanoi. The two leaders said they will work on cross-border railway connectivity, naming 3 projects that include one connecting to the mountainous Lao Chai in Vietnam's northwest to the port city Haiphong, and the potential one linking China's Shenzhen to Haiphong. Kolom Muhammad, NTA News.
1 man has died and 6 other people are missing after a yacht sank off the coast of Sicily during bad weather. The City Council of Bulgaria said in a statement that the yacht suddenly sank at around 5 a.m. local time, probably due to the terrible weather conditions. Comfort Fashion tells us all about it.
The British-flagged ship known as Bayesian sank during an overnight storm as water sprouts similar to tornadoes swept over the area. The 56-meter-long, that's equivalent of 183 feet yacht, was carrying 22 people on board. And it's been reported that those on board were nationals of the US, Canada, Sri Lanka, New Zealand and Ireland. The Italian Coast Guard is leading the search with divers and helicopters scouring the sea, and they have so far rescued 15 people, including 1-year-old British child, and transferred them to the local hospitals where they are reportedly in stable condition. The Italian Coast Guard said the body of a man has also been found near the wreckage, noting that his nationality remains unconfirmed. The wreck was discovered at a depth of 49 meters, that is equivalent of 160 feet. Rescuers have been deployed to search for survivors and inspect the sunken yacht. The boat left the Sicilian port of Milazzo on August 14 and was last tracked east of Palermo on Sunday evening with a navigation status of at anchor. Comfort Fashion, NTA News.
And as Mpox risk in Africa grows, European health authorities have advised EU countries to issue travel warnings for regions affected by Mpox after the outbreak was declared a global emergency by the World Health Organization. Kolom Mohammed has details.
The European Centre for Disease Prevention and Control, ECDC, has warned that Europe is likely to see more imported cases of Mpox due to the virus's spread in several African nations. The ECDC, however, noted that the risk of ongoing transmission within Europe remains low, provided that imported cases are quickly identified and controlled. This update follows the detection of a new Mpox variant in Sweden, marking the first case of this strain outside Africa. Europe is concerned over the worsening situation in Africa, particularly in the Democratic Republic of Congo and neighboring countries, where the number of cases is likely underestimated. To prevent further spread in Europe, The ECDC emphasized the need for rapid case identification and containment.
Just need to make sure that we know who is infected and make sure that this person does not infect people around. And this is why we have called for increased vigilance, to be on alert for any possible cases, to have testing ready, to test people when we have suspicion, to look out for symptoms of Mpox, and once, if there is a case being identified, to make sure that the person gets necessary clinical care, and to make sure that this person is not infecting people around.
The first Mpox variant has been reported in Philippines and Pakistan. Since early 2024, the World Health Organization says confirmed laboratory cases have led to 208 deaths, and spread has surged further recently. Kolo Muhammad, NTA.
You're watching the news on NTA International. It's time to take a short break. More news when we return. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Now, President Bola Tinubu has approved the appointment of Professor Abdullahi Saleh Usman as the Executive Chairman of the National Hajj Commission of Nigeria, NACON. Professor Usman is a renowned scholar with qualifications from 2 Islamic Centers of Excellence, the University of Medina and Peshawar University, Pakistan. He is also well-grounded in Hajj operations, having served as the chairman of Kano State Pilgrims Board and successfully superintended the operations of the largest quota of state pilgrims in the country. The appointment is subject to confirmation by the Senate. The president expects the new chairman of NACON to discharge his duties with integrity, transparency, and utmost fidelity to the nation. Now, talking judiciary, the Supreme Court has reserved judgment in the appeal emanating from the conduct of Bayelsa and Kogi state governorship election. Omenka Amarachuku reports.
In the appeal from Bayelsa State, the appellant, Timipre Silva, and the APC pleaded with the court to set aside the judgments of the Bayelsa State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal and the Court of Appeal, which had earlier dismissed their petition. The respondents in the matter, Doyin Turi, asked the court to dismiss the appeal brought against his election by the governorship candidate of the All Progressive Congress APC in the Bayelsa governorship pool. In another development, the Apex Court has equally reserved judgment in the appeal filed against the tribunal and the appeal court judgments by the candidate of the Social Democratic Party in the Kogi governorship election, Murtala Ajaka, to a date that will be communicated to the parties. The Apex Court also declined a request by Ajaka's counsel for the constitution of a full panel to hear and determine his appeal. The 2 appeals have been heard and to be determined at a later date. In Abuja, Omeka Marachuku, NTA News.
And with just a month to the Edo governorship election, INEC is set for the exercise. INEC Chairman Professor Mahmoud Yakubu gave the assurance after meeting with the resident electoral commissioners on level of preparations for the elections. Collection of permanent voter cards, PVCs, in Edo State was top among issues deliberated.
These cards will be made available at RA level from Thursday, 22nd August 2024 to Monday, 26th August 2024, from 9 in the morning to 5 p.m., that's 5 in the evening daily, including the weekend. It is important to emphasize that the Commission's policy that PVCs must be personally collected by registered voters has not changed. The cards will not be distributed or collected by proxy so that they do not end up in the wrong hands.
INEC will announce a date for the collection of PVCs in Ondo State soon. The National Assembly is strengthening the capacity of legislators to effectively respond to emerging issues in legislative practice and the polity. National Assembly correspondent Lami Ali reports that the management of the Assembly is determined to provide support staff with necessary skills to go with digital age.
With increasing expectations from the public on the legislative arm of government due to its vital role in attaining good governance, this capacity-building workshop for staff of the National Assembly aims to empower the workforce to be innovative towards attaining set targets. The clerk to the National Assembly says the reorientation program would instill a sense of patriotism and integrity in line with ongoing reform of the civil service.
I have no doubt that the time and effort invested in this program will yield a positive result.
As public servants, your roles are pivotal in shaping the legislative process and ensuring the policies and decisions made are in the best interest of the National Assembly and Nigeria at large.
This batch of trainees, numbering over 300, covers half of levels 10 to 14.
In these times of change and challenges, it is more important than ever before that we redouble our efforts to deliver the highest standard of service and support to the members of the National Assembly.
Areas of focus at the workshop include legislative administration, report writing, financial regulation, code of conduct, and adapting to technology-enabled work environments. Lami Ali, NTA News.
World Humanitarian Day is commemorated every year on 19th August to pay tribute to humanitarian workers killed and injured in the course of their work and to honor all aid and health workers who continue to provide life-saving support and protection to people most in need. Each year, World Humanitarian Day focuses on a theme, bringing together partners from across the humanitarian system to advocate for the survival, well-being and dignity of people affected by crisis and for the safety of and security of aid workers. Ruth Agwele reports.
Hashtag Act for Humanity is the theme for this year's World Humanitarian Day. The aim is to build public support to help pressure parties in conflicts and world leaders to take action to ensure the protection of civilians, including humanitarian actors in conflict zones. For Nigeria, the result of conflicts and climate change in the affected regions has forced many into displacement and impacted the lives and livelihoods of millions of people. The present administration, under the Renewed Hope agenda, has put in measures to provide humanitarian relief through diverse social intervention programs to reduce the trajectory of poverty of vulnerable groups in the country.
In line with Renewed Hope agenda of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, he said, no one should be left behind, and we're in this world for just 3 reasons: for humanity.
Recognizing the burden of humanitarian needs across the country, Nigeria has consistently taken coordinated mechanisms with humanitarian partners towards interventions by supporting federal government's efforts through funding and technical aid to curb humanitarian crises in the country.
By our capable implementing partners evaluated by the Nigerian government in collaboration with the ECOWAS team will in depth enable us to touch the lives of the people identified.
These humanitarian initiatives, as we all know, are driven by the belief that every individual deserves access to basic necessities of life.
As the world celebrates Humanitarian Day, it is a call to action for nations to adopt a comprehensive approach by building capacity to strengthen humanitarian response plan towards addressing the growing humanitarian needs of persons of concern. Ruth Agwele, NTA News.
The federal government has set up a 15-member National Task Force Committee for Cervical Cancer Elimination, NTFCCE, to be chaired by the former Minister of Health, Professor Isaac Adewale. In a statement by the Director General of the National Institute for Cancer Research and Treatment, Professor Usman Aliyu, the Minister of State for Health and Social Welfare, Dr. Tunji Alausa, who constituted the committee in Abuja, said it aligns with the National Strategic Plan for Control of Cervical Cancer 2023 to 2027, specifically in achieving the ambitious target of screening 50% of eligible women at least once in their lifetime and treating 100% of precancerous lesions detected by 2027. The minister said the task force committee is charged with the responsibility of providing expert guidance, mobilizing resources, and leading a comprehensive national effort to drastically reduce the burden of cervical cancer in Nigeria. Up next, take a look at the weather prospects. And that's the news on NTA International. My name is Frama Pani, and Franklin Efe has been the sign language interpreter, and together we say thank you for joining us.